This is Nale, the Herald of Justice. I'll show you how to paint him in under an hour and 15 minutes, using only 6 paints from the Stormlight paint set. Let's begin. So I started by priming the model with black spray paint. And whenever I prime a model, I always come back again with some black paint to cover up any spots that I missed with the spray paint. So here I'm creating a gray. I had a gray already in my paint palette, but you can create gray by mixing black and white. And here I'm going around and catching the raised areas on Nale's cloak. And I'm intentionally pretty sloppy here. I'm just trying to get some blocked in colors. You don't have to be perfect. We're just trying to catch those raised areas to make it look like he's wearing something besides a flat black piece of paper. We will come back through and dilute these highlights later on. And with this highlight, you kind of want to use the edge of the brush. Sometimes I use the tip, sometimes I use the edge. Most of the time, using the edge gives you a smoother line, while using the tip, it's a little bit less control, but that's okay because we're okay with being sloppy here a little bit. So here I'm making the gray slightly darker, and this kind of goes along with the painting concept called wet blending, where you take the in-between shade of the gray and the black, and you're technically supposed to have the wet paint and it's supposed to blend a little bit easier. I was kind of lazy and I was going for speed, and so I just have a slightly darker gray, and I'm narrowing in those gray highlights, those original gray highlights. If you have seen my how to paint wit tutorial, I didn't do this step, and I really don't like how Wit's clothes turned out because it's just black and then gray. So I learned my lesson from that, and I'm trying out this technique here to give it a smoother finish on his clothes. And it's not a perfect science. You can come back in with a darker black and darker gray. And as always, thinning your paints will help with this process because you're not mudding up any of the details. So while I had the gray out, I activated it with some water to get it really thin, and I just covered the base with this gray. Now you can choose if you want to do the shattered plains, you can do more of a brown. So Nale is dark skinned, and so I start out with the dark brown. And one thing I realized after I finished painting Nale is that I should have left his hands black because he should be wearing black gloves, but I decided to add some contrast and made his hands more skin tone. And honestly, the details of the mini, you can get away with this or you can get away with gloves. The details aren't that pronounced, and it could go either way. So while I let that dry, I'm bringing out Shard Blade Silver and coming in and painting the Shard Blade. Coming back in with the tip of the paintbrush to catch the buttons as well as his belt buckle. As you know, I hate buttons. I usually mess them up, but they turned out okay. Coming back in with that dark brown to solidify the hands and the face. Coming back in for a second coat on that Shard Blade. And a third coat of that dark brown. Okay, coming in with white. Now I just did plain pure white here, the matte white from the starter set, and I'm going along the edges of his tunic to block it in and follow the character guide a little bit. And I found that this white line really made the miniature pop and make it look like he was actually wearing a uniform. Now, if I was going for an object source lighting with his eyes or something, because he is floating, he should be glowing, I would not have used straight up white, but I decided not to go with any kind of lighting on this model and just stick with simplicity. And so just going around with that edge highlight is what I'm doing here. So if you look closely, I did mess up some of the white lines, but that is okay because I can come back with some black and cover those up. For the clouds underneath his feet, I did this with the Teft model back when I painted Bridge 4, and I liked how it turned out. It was very simple. You just base coat the clouds with white, and then we'll come back in with a shade to mute it. So what works once will work again. I will note that going from a black primer to a white base coat will take a lot of thin coats. So just be patient. If you have a fan handy, go ahead and put the fan on the model, dry it out as fast as you can so you can keep just applying more and more coats of white paint. Okay, so here is Strong Tone. I'm going around and putting it all over the base to soak into the recesses, and I'm putting it heavily on the clouds to get that levitation feel. And then I'm going around a little bit and putting it on his cloak. Now I found that with black, you don't really need to do a lot of shade because your contrast is coming from the edge highlighting. So here I'm creating a light gray, and I'm getting my dry brush out. This is just a very cheap makeup brush from Walmart. I'm using that dry brush to catch the raised areas on the base to give the rock the textured feel that I'm looking for. Here I'm bringing in tan along with dark brown, mixing them together because I'm going through and catching the raised areas of Nale's flesh. This is to add that contrast that we're always looking for in miniature painting. You want to exaggerate the details so that you can actually see that, oh yeah, Nale has a forehead, he has a nose, he has some ears, and that's what this paint layer is for. Come back in and finish off that shard blade, make it nice and shiny with some shard blade silver. Keep a lookout for my next video. I'll see you on the next one.